The Ravens might be facing the biggest problem of the Lamar Jackson era. And honestly, this situation feels way more serious than most people realize. Because while Lamar keeps publicly saying he wants to stay in Baltimore, what's happening behind the scenes tells a completely different story. Now a major detail about his contract has surfaced, and it changes everything about these negotiations. And the longer this drama drags on, the more it feels like Lamar Jackson could end up controlling his entire NFL future on his own terms. I honestly think Lamar Jackson is way more comfortable with this situation than most people think. Usually, when a contract extension drags out this long, you start seeing frustration or pressure from the player. But with Lamar, it feels like the complete opposite. This week, he made it crystal clear that he wants to stay with the Ravens. He literally said he absolutely wants to remain in Baltimore and that he has love for both the city and the organization. But even after saying all of that, he still hasn't signed an extension. And honestly, I think there's a very simple reason why he's so calm about all this. Lamar knows exactly how much power he has right now. He still has 2 years left on his current deal, and he's set to make a massive amount of money during that stretch. So there's no reason for him to rush into accepting just any offer. Meanwhile, the Ravens know they're dealing with a quarterback who completely changes the level of this football team. Now here's the detail that really puts pressure on Baltimore: the no-tag clause in Lamar's contract. Basically, the Ravens won't be able to use the franchise tag on him down the road. If there's no new deal by 2028, Lamar can hit free agency and talk to any team in the NFL. And honestly, that should terrify the Ravens. Because think about it for a second. How often does a two-time MVP quarterback hit the open market while still in his prime? It almost never happens, and I think Lamar understands that perfectly. He knows there would be a massive line of teams ready to throw huge money at him immediately. But all that confidence from Lamar creates another huge problem for Baltimore, because the price of his next contract may keep getting even bigger, and this is where things start getting really dangerous for Baltimore, in my opinion. Because there's a huge difference between negotiating with a normal player and letting things drag out with someone like Lamar Jackson. Mike Florio pointed this out perfectly. He said Lamar could eventually become one of the most valuable free agents the NFL has ever seen. And honestly, I don't think that's an exaggeration at all. Just think about the situation. We're talking about a two-time MVP quarterback who's still in his athletic prime, still one of the most explosive players in football, and still the entire engine of Baltimore's offense. Players like that almost never hit the open market. Most franchises do whatever it takes to avoid even getting close to that scenario. But the longer there's no agreement, the more real that possibility becomes. And I think that completely changes the pressure surrounding these negotiations. Because the Ravens know that if Lamar ever gets close to free agency, half the league is instantly getting involved. Teams desperate for a franchise quarterback would open up the checkbook immediately. And once multiple teams enter a bidding war like that, the price skyrockets. To me, that's where Baltimore starts entering dangerous territory. Because this isn't just about paying a lot of money anymore. This is about the real possibility of losing the most important player in the entire franchise. And the calmer Lamar stays throughout all this, the more it feels like he fully believes in his value. But that confidence leads directly into another massive issue in this drama: the guaranteed money Lamar still wants in his next deal. In my opinion, the biggest issue in these negotiations is still the exact same thing it's always been: guaranteed money. Everything points to Lamar Jackson still wanting a massive contract, maybe even a fully guaranteed deal, and it's pretty clear the Ravens aren't completely comfortable with that right now. And honestly, after everything Lamar has done on the field, I can completely understand his side of this. Because Lamar probably looks at himself and says, I'm a two-time MVP, I carry this offense, and I'm still one of the most dangerous players in the entire NFL. So of course he believes he deserves a contract bigger than other quarterbacks, especially when the QB market keeps exploding every single year with new record-breaking deals. Now from the Ravens side, I also understand the hesitation. Fully guaranteed contracts can completely change a franchise's financial structure. If something goes wrong, the salary cap consequences can haunt a team for years. So Baltimore is trying to find balance here. The problem is that Lamar doesn't seem interested in giving any kind of discount. And honestly, it really feels like he'd rather wait than accept a deal he believes is below his value. But here's what makes this even more dangerous for the Ravens. The longer they wait, the more expensive this could get. The quarterback market keeps going up. New deals keep resetting the market, and every new contract gives Lamar even more leverage to ask for a bigger number. And in my opinion, that's exactly why he's staying patient through this entire process. But beyond the money, there's another part of this story that makes the whole situation even more unusual. One of the craziest parts of this entire story is that Lamar Jackson is still handling these negotiations without an agent. And honestly, that's pretty shocking when you think about the size of this contract situation. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, massive contract clauses, and one of the biggest negotiations in the NFL right now. Yet Lamar continues handling everything himself. And honestly, I think that says a lot about who he is. Ever since the beginning of his career, Lamar has always carried himself like someone who fully believes in himself no matter what. He bets on his talent constantly. He did it before the draft when people doubted him as an NFL quarterback. And it feels like he's doing the exact same thing now. During these negotiations, Mike Florio even mentioned that Lamar negotiating without an agent could be one of the reasons why this extension still hasn't happened yet, and maybe there's some truth to that. Agents usually help smooth things over, speed up conversations, and build communication between both sides. But at the same time, I also think Lamar likes having total control of the process and doesn't seem willing to accept anything he feels is below his true value. And honestly, the more I look at this situation, the more it feels like Lamar is completely willing to bet on himself again. He seems perfectly comfortable waiting, playing another season, and driving his value even higher if he keeps performing at an elite level. But all that confidence opens the door to a scenario that very few Ravens fans even want to think about right now. If you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button to help the purple flock grow. Even though Lamar keeps publicly saying he wants to stay in Baltimore, there's one part of this story that I think is impossible to ignore: the possibility of a future trade request. Because when negotiations this massive drag on for too long, tension naturally starts building behind the scenes. And if the Ravens continue staying far away from Lamar's asking price, this conversation could become a lot more serious after next season. And honestly, I think a lot of NFL teams are already watching this situation very closely, because any franchise desperate for a true franchise quarterback would probably do almost anything to land Lamar Jackson. We're talking about a player capable of instantly turning a team into a playoff contender. Quarterbacks like that almost never become available. What's really interesting is that Lamar keeps everything extremely private. He recently said he wants negotiations to stay private, and I think that matters because it shows he's still not trying to create a public war with Baltimore. At least not yet. But that doesn't mean there aren't serious issues happening behind the scenes, because in my opinion, the Ravens are entering a very dangerous stage of this entire drama. The longer there's no deal, the more risky scenarios start appearing. Whether it's Lamar eventually testing free agency, the possibility of a trade request, or an even more expensive contract later on. And honestly, it feels like Baltimore is starting to realize that keeping Lamar Jackson happy may end up costing way more than they originally expected. And honestly, this situation between Lamar Jackson and the Ravens feels far from over. Because while Lamar continues showing that he wants to stay in Baltimore, the negotiations remain stuck and the pressure behind the scenes keeps growing. And the longer this drags out, the more leverage Lamar seems to gain. Now the big question is how far the Ravens are willing to go to keep the most important player in the franchise. Because if Baltimore doesn't solve this soon, this entire situation could get even more dangerous over the next few months. But now I want to hear from you. Would you give Lamar Jackson the massive contract he wants? Or do you think the Ravens need to be careful here? And do you believe Lamar will stay in Baltimore for the long haul? Let me know in the comments because I really want to hear your thoughts on this whole situation. And if you're a true Ravens fan and love keeping up with everything happening around the team, don't leave this video without sharing it with a friend who's just as passionate. They're definitely going to enjoy this. See those videos on your screen right now? I picked the first one especially for you, and the other is recommended by YouTube. Go check them out and I'll see you in the next video.